Good morning, everyone. In the previous session, we were discussing about the waste treatment, and we were also discussing about the types of the waste and the methods of treatment of waste. In today's session, we will try to understand the concepts of the biomass and biogas for the purpose of energy generation. So, as we know, energy is an essential factor in development for the reason that it stimulates and supports economic growth and development of any country. Fossil fuels, especially the oil and the natural gas, they are finite. There is a limitation for the availability of the resources with respect to fossil fuels, and thus should be regarded as depleting assets. So what is the alternative? Efforts should be oriented to search for new sources of energy because energy is vital in the development. The clamor all over the world for the need to conserve energy and the environment. There are two issues. If you try to conserve the energy, definitely it will have a positive impact on the environment. So the clamor all around the world for the need to conserve the energy and the environment has intensified as traditional energy resources continue to dwindle whilst the environment becomes increasingly degraded. So the basic form of biomass comes mainly from the firewood, the charcoal and crop residues. So out of the total fuel from wood and charcoal, 92% was consumed in the household, with most firewood consumption associated with the rural areas. So before understanding the concepts of biomass and bioenergy, we need to understand the terminologies such as biomass. What does biomass refer to? Biomass refers to non-fossil material of biological origin. It could be energy crops, agricultural and forestry wastes and byproducts, manure or microbial biomass. So biomass refers to non-fossil material of biological origin such as energy crops, agricultural and forestry waste and byproducts, manures or microbial biomass. Then what does biofuel refer to? Biofuel is the fuel produced directly or indirectly from the biomass. So we have understood what biomass refers to. So biofuels is derived from directly or indirectly from biomass such as fuel wood, charcoal, bioethanol, biodiesel, biogas that is methane or biohydrogen. So all these constitute or refer to biofuel which is produced directly or indirectly from the biomass. Then what does bioenergy refer to? It is the energy derived from biofuels. So biofuels are produced from biomass and bioenergy is derived from biofuels, and it refers to the use of biological commodity, that is biomass, especially for the purpose of energy. So all these three terminologies are interdependent, right? So the biofuel is produced directly or indirectly from biomass, and bioenergy is derived from biofuels, especially for the purpose of energy generations. If you just look at the forecast, the biofuel production forecast is likely to increase by 25% over the next 5 years, that is up to 2024. This data gives uh, up to 2024. The global biofuel production, it has increased to 10 billion liters. That means it was in 2018, and it reached 154 billion liters. So it is a tremendous growth, and now it is expected to increase by 25% in another 5 years. So there is a lot of demand for the biofuel production. That is the reason why we need to understand some important concepts in the biofuel area, right? So the term, as I said, biomass, it is generally applied to the plant materials grown for non-food use, that includes or specially grown as a source of fuel. It is only for grown for the purpose of fuel production. Now, what are the fundamental advantages of this approach? Number one, biodegradability. So the positive impact on environment, compatibility with biological systems. That means less allergic reactions, and sparing of fossil carbon dioxide emissions. It is also linked to the change in the climatic conditions. So again, a positive impact on the environment. Right. Now, why does bioenergy matters to sustainability of the world in terms of growth and development? Modern biology, with respect to the bioenergy, it provides new opportunities for modernization of agriculture and the rural economy. If, if you can improve the access to modern energy services or the resources for billions of people in developing countries, especially in developing countries, it can be the best way or the approach for sustainable growth and development. If technologically and economically, both technologically and economically viable, then bioenergy can also contribute to energy security of that nation, right? So, where the nationally produced bioenergy substitutes for imported fossil fuels, by which most of the developing nations are doing so. So compared to fossil fuels, bioenergy has the potential to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. You have been hearing about this from many years. So compared to fossil fuels, bioenergy has the potential to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions because the carbon released during the fuel combustion can be recaptured during the plant growth. So that is the advantage. However, actual emission rates reductions depend on the type of the bioenergy production and processing. So what are the processing process that is adapted, and what are the types of the bioenergy that is produced? So the actual emission reduction or emission rate reduction depends on these two: the type of the bioenergy production and the processing process, and more importantly on the location where the feedstock for bioenergy is produced. Right? Modern biology, with respect to bioenergy, it provides new opportunity for modernization of agriculture and the rural economy. Number two, compared to fossil fuels, bioenergy has the potential to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Number three, the share of arable land and biomass used to produce biofuels is expected to increase in the coming years, maybe by 5 to 8%. The share of arable land and biomass used to produce the biofuels is expected to increase in the coming years by about 5 to 8%. The rising demand for liquid biofuels, especially the bioethanol, biodiesels, can or they can put pressure on land, especially on forest land, wetlands, water, even on water and other natural resources. So there is an exponential demand for the biofuels, especially in developed countries in comparison to the developing countries. So biofuel demand is also one of the several factors driving up the commodity and food prices, because most of the investment is going for the fossil fuel, and if you can shift to the biofuel, definitely it will have an impact on the pricing. So biofuel demand is there because so that the cost for other commodities and the food products can be reduced, because it is a chain. It links to the transportation. So this biofuel demand is one of the several factors. There are several factors, but this is also one of the important factor that drives up the commodity and the food prices. And number four, bioenergy offers opportunities to increase income and employment in rural areas. Right? We are discussing about why bioenergy is so much important. Why does bioenergy matters with respect to sustainability? Number four is bioenergy offers opportunities to increase the income and employment in rural areas, especially if appropriate measures are put in place to foster smallholder inclusions in bioenergy markets. The increase in agricultural investments, driven by the growing demand for biofuels, can also stimulate sustainable agricultural development. Right. So, I have listed four important points which refers to the need for bioenergy in terms of sustainability. That is, modern bioenergy provides new opportunity for modernization of agriculture and the rural economy. And number two, compared to the fossil fuels, bioenergy has the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Number three, the share of arable land and biomass used to produce biofuels is expected to increase by 5 to 8%. Number four, bioenergy offers opportunities to increase income and employment in rural areas, especially if appropriate measures are put in place to foster the smallholder inclusion in bioenergy markets. Right? So the aim of any modern biomass energy systems or the facilities must be to maximize yields with minimum inputs. Should be capable enough for utilization and selection of adequate plant materials and processes. Optimum use of land, water and fertilizer. Create an adequate infrastructure with strong research and development base. So the aim of any biomass energy facility or system is to maximize the yield with minimum input, utilization and selection of adequate plant materials and the processes, optimum use of land, water and fertilizer, create an adequate infrastructure with strong R&D basis. At the global scale, if you look at the global scale among the continents, domestic supply of biomass is highest in Asia, followed by Africa and the Americas. Both Asia and Africa account for high share of biomass due to the extensive use of fuel wood and charcoal for the purpose of heating and cooking. Right. So for liquid biofuels, that is bioethanol, biodiesel, America and Brazil has the highest share due to high production of bioethanol from corn and sugarcane respectively. Europe is also leading. It is leading the way in biogas supply as it accounts for more than 50% of the global supply. So 50% of the biogas supply is from the European countries. For the reason that they make extensive use of waste to energy technologies including incineration, gasification, etc. So among various continents and the countries taken into account towards the supply of the biofuels and the biogas, Europe leads the way in biogas supply because it accounts for more than 50% of the global supply, for the reason that due to extensive use of waste to energy technology including incineration, gasification, etc. Right. Now we'll try to understand what is biogas and what are its important concepts. Biogas is an extremely important sector for the whole bioenergy industry. Biogas is produced by anaerobic fermentation of different forms of organic matter, and it is composed mainly of methane and carbon dioxide. So we have been studying about biogas from our plus 2 level. So it is produced by anaerobic fermentation of different forms of organic matter, and it is composed of methane and carbon dioxide. Now, what are the typical feedstocks for the biogas production? So the typical feedstocks for biogas productions are: number one, manure and sewage; number two, residues of crop production, that is the straw; number three, the organic fraction of the waste collected from the households and industry, as well as energy crops including the maize and grass silage. Right. So these are the typical feedstocks for biogas production. That is the manure and sewage, the residues of crop production, that is the straws, the organic fraction of the waste from households and industries. Right. So the biogas is supplied to Once produced, it is supplied to a variety of users or markets, which include electricity, heat, and even for the transportation. That is through biodiesel. So this is a typical setup of an on-farm anaerobic digester plant, showing the gas storage tank and digesters, just to give you an idea how does uh, a large scale biogas production unit look like. This is somewhere in one of the European countries where, because it is the largest supplier of the biogas, so this is how the unit look like, the anaerobic digester plant, right? So this image gives you an idea about the anaerobic digestion process. So if you can just carefully go through the illustration, you will understand what exactly happens in anaerobic digestion. So the anaerobic digestion is a simple technology which is widely used for the processing the biodegradable organic waste for the biogas production. So the animal manure, that is cow dung, is used as the inoculum or the starter. And what happens in the process? During the entire process, the large organic polymers that make up the biomass, now they are broken down into smaller molecules by chemicals and microorganisms, right? So upon completion of the anaerobic digestion process, the biomass is converted into biogas, that is methane, carbon dioxide, and traces of some contaminating gases. So it is converted into biogas and as well as liquid digestate. Now this liquid digestate is used as fertilizers because it is nutrient rich, right? So the biomass is converted into biogas and liquid digestate, which is a nutrient rich fertilizer. Is that clear? So the during the entire process of anaerobic digestion, the large organic polymers that make up the biomass are broken down into smaller molecules by chemicals and microorganisms. And upon completion of the anaerobic digestion process, the biomass is converted into biogas, and we know that the biogas is the methane and carbon dioxide with trace amount of some contaminating gases. So the biomass is converted into biogas, and second, it is also converted into liquid digestate, which is a nutrient rich fertilizer. Is that clear? Now this gives you an idea about the four important steps of the biogas production or the AD process, anaerobic digestion process. The first step is hydrolysis. The second step is acidogenesis. The third is acetogenesis. Fourth is methanogenesis. Finally ending up with methane and carbon dioxide with trace amount of contaminating gases. Right. So there are many different types of anaerobic digesters that are available, and they come in different configurations, different retention time, varied pre and post treatment requirements, and as well as operating temperatures, right? So during this process or the anaerobic digestion process, The breakdown of organic compounds is achieved by a combination of many types of bacteria, right? That is microorganisms. And the biomass added to the digester is broken. It is broken down into, as I said, simple molecules, that is sugars, amino acids, and fatty acids. Now it is fermented to produce volatile fatty acids and alcohols in step 3, that is acidogenesis. So step 1 is hydrolysis, step 2 is acidogenesis, step 3 is acetogenesis. Right? The biomass is broken down into sugars, amino acids and fatty acids, fermented to produce volatile fatty acids and alcohols, followed by the conversion into hydrogen, carbon dioxide and ammonia, and finally methanogens. They produce biogas from acetic acid and hydrogen. So this is essentially about the entire process of the anaerobic digestion leading to the formation of biogas. The anaerobic digestion, it takes place at two optimum temperatures, and these two optimum temperatures ranges from number 1, 35 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade in the case of mesophilic, and number 2, 55 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade as in the case of thermophilic. So the essentially the process is hydrolysis, acidogenesis, acetogenesis and methanogenesis, and there is involvement of microorganisms, the bacteria and the archaea, and this anaerobic digestion process that happens at two optimum temperatures requires two conditions, that is 35 to 40 degrees centigrade in case of the mesophilic and 55 to 60 degrees centigrade in case of thermophilics. And if you carefully observe, most of the anaerobic digester plants around the world, they operate in the mesophilic region or the range which suits for the mesophilic, for the reason that less heat is required to maintain that temperature, and also the digestion process is very much stable under mesophilic, under the temperature that is 35 to 40 degrees centigrade for mesophilic organisms, right? So most of the anaerobic digester plants around the world, they operate in this region, that is mesophilic region, that is between 35 to 40 degrees centigrade, suitable for bacteria which are mesophilic, right? For the reason that it is, or it requires less heat for maintenance, and also the digestion process is very much stable, right? So this is about the biogas and bioenergy production, which is an important concept in nowadays and also in the coming future, and it is very much important from industrial biotechnological perspective. So I have discussed about the need for the biofuels from the biomass and the bioenergy, and we have discussed about what constitutes the biogas and how the biogas is produced. That is, it is an anaerobic digestion or the fermentation process, and we have seen the four important steps in the anaerobic digestion, that is hydrolysis, acidogenesis, acetogenesis and methanogenesis, leading to the production of biogas and the optimum conditions with respect to temperatures, that is the 35 to 40 degrees centigrade, that is mesophilic range for mesophilic bacteria, and 55 to 60 degrees centigrade for thermophilic bacteria. And most of the plants, they are operated under mesophilic region, for the reason that less heat is required for maintenance, and also the digestion process is very much stable. So with this, I'll stop my discussion over here. We'll continue our discussion in the next session. Thank you very much.